and the coaching staff like to arrive at this point. There's so much discussion, so much dialogue that takes place from March through April, during the draft, in the draft room, and honestly, it's such a collaborative effort. The work that they put in, pro staff, understanding their teams, understanding like where players potentially could fit, where is there a gap, where is there a player that could potentially be of conflict for us, or we might have to move and get in front of. And the college scouting staff, like, they know the players better than anybody. They've been studying these players for as long as anybody, and I think the last pick was a good example, just talking through it and not being afraid to speak up and say, hey, what about so and so. It just speaks to like the team nature of the building, how we operate, what we do, and then you see that on display, and it kind of comes to fruition all at once. When there's so much that goes into the actual execution of the pick, but the work that goes in, I mean, I really can't say enough about the people that are involved in that process. As it pertains to the players that we picked, I'd say it really speaks to people and programs as much as anything, which is important. I have a tremendous amount of respect and admiration for Coach Campbell, the way he runs his program, the types of people that he brings in, the way he develops players. I would say Coach Fleck is the same way in Minnesota, and these players have been coached, they've been trained, they've been developed. Now they kind of have to restart that here a little bit in those specific examples, but when you pick players, it's as much about their belief in those players, and some of them understand kind of the program that we're building and what D'Amico and I expect from the players and the fit, and they'll be honest, not afraid to say, you know what, he might not be for you, and here's the reasons why, and you can't, help but respect that information and that communication, because it makes a difference. As far as the picks are concerned, I mean, I know we moved around a bunch a little bit there, I don't know if I had trades, whatever it was, but, kind of stuck in picked Higgins there, moved up to get Ariante, stuck and picked Jalen, and then kind of moved a little bit with the other Jalen. I know we got Jalen, we got this guy. It's hard to keep it straight. But, I mean, we feel we've added youth, toughness, speed, athleticism, overall competitiveness on both sides of the football. And hopefully that just enhances the overall performance of our football team. I think practice is going to be a lot of fun. I mean, there's going to be a lot of talking back and forth, whether it's Jalen Smith. I mean, I know we'll talk about CJ, GJ there, they'll be involved in some of that, but these guys are going to want to compete, and it's only going to make each other better. I mean, we're not going to talk about Kamari Lassiter, who's as competitive as any player probably have in the building. So the idea was to try to add good players that are good people, that are young, that are tough, that are hungry, that want to win, that put the team first. And I think these picks sort of exemplify that. So, I'm not necessarily going to go through a breakdown of each individual pick. I'm sure we'll get some questions about some of the players, but kind of go from there.
Hey, can you talk a little bit about having a guy already having a player from, say, Iowa State, and you talk about the coach and what maybe a coach does someplace? Does that give you a better sense of what you might be dealing with by getting more players from a school?
Yes and no. I mean, if it's the right player and the right people, I'd say Coach Campbell was spot on about Hutch, and Hutch has been like outstanding for our program. He's been one of the best teammates, embraces the role, works his ass off, everything you want, good teammate, goes out there, and when he's called upon, he performs. So Coach Campbell, I talked to him a little bit earlier today, and just kind of went through some of the players on their team. And he was effusive in his, I'd say, belief and praise of both Higgins and Noel. They're different, kind of in terms of their skill sets, how they play, but it's a good example of like, well, the guys drafted a receiver, why would you draft another receiver? Well, because Jalen's a really good football player, inside receiver, plays outside of formations, a punt returner, handles the ball. He's tough. I'd say, we got some feedback from some teams, just unsolicited, like literally one of the best 30-man visits. This is after the draft, that they had. So it speaks to who Jalen is. And you get him on the phone, talk about the pick, and he's crying because he just pours so much into it. He cares a lot. So, like I said, can go back to the beginning there. What Coach Campbell says carries a lot of weight, and I have a lot of faith and confidence. And we're respectful of our relationship with the college coaches, and it's a two-way street. So we want to work with the schools, we want to work with the colleges, and we're honest with them. Hopefully they're honest with us, and then you build equity over time.
Nick, Bill
Parcells.
That you you don't really draft for new, you draft for like the best player available, but when the two kind of align, is that the dream scenario for trying to build the team that you want?
Yeah, we've never talked like, what do we need? I mean, I've said that we need good football players. It doesn't matter the position that they play. So get them in the building and sort it out. Like, we need good football players. That's what we need. Like the whole perception, we need this position, we need that position. I mean, that's made up. Like, we don't approach it that way. So it doesn't really matter. And I'd say today was another good example of all the grades. I'd say we kept coming back to, well, here were our grades on this player. Okay, well, all right, well, if he's the best player and he has the other qualities that we covet, then we pick the player. And the competition's gonna sort itself out. We're not gonna control the competition, the players are. So, can we draft another receiver? I don't know, sure, if he's the best player, he's graded accordingly, so it doesn't matter where they come from. So, D'Amico said it, I've said it, like, this whole concept of drafting for need, honest to God, I don't even know what it means. I mean, what does it mean? If someone could tell me that, I'd love to hear it, but we don't look at it that way. We need to keep drafting good people, good football players that are gonna enhance the overall culture of our building, and we're not gonna stray from that.
Nick, when it comes to Ursery and some of the performances, competition always, stands out, game tape. Did the Penn State game, did that jump out to you all? We were talking about Abdul Carter, and that's a good football player, and he matched up with him and a bunch of other pass rushers.
Yeah, it's not necessarily one game, Aaron, so, I mean, there's a lot of good players in the Big Ten. Ohio State's got a bunch of players, and there's a bunch of players on different teams. Coach Bielema's got a bunch of players on defense, so, I mean, you're watching other players, and let's say Tay has a body of work, so Tay, similar to, I'd say, Iowa State in some respects, Coach Fleck's program, this is a developmental program, they're not taking necessarily 5-star players. So Tay's got some things that he does well, he's got plenty of things that he can work on. His mindset, his attitude, his competitiveness, his physicality, his toughness, like you see that on the tape. So there's certain things that he does well, there's other things that maybe he needs to work on. That's where D'Amico's talked about this, like this is why we coach. This is their job as coaches, is to enhance the strengths, try to improve the weaknesses, and get them to perform at whatever optimum level that is. So sometimes it takes a year, sometimes it takes a little bit longer, sometimes the guy's ready to go a little bit sooner than later. So the player is going to improve based on how much he's willing to put in and pour into it. And you saw that whether it was in the Penn State game, whether it was in all the other games in the Big Ten, you saw it at the Senior Bowl. So those are all evaluation opportunities for them, and we take everything into consideration.
Obviously, y'all did have a lot of time to think about your first pick of the second round. Why ultimately was Jaden Higgins the right guy for you guys?
Because he was the best player and the highest graded player on the board. What else is there?
Did you have any seeing him in the Senior Bowl? Was there anything that stood out in particular or during the pre-draft process that you really liked?
Yeah, pretty much everything. Like, watch him play. I mean, here's a guy who basically made himself into an NFL football player. Under-recruited basketball player in high school, went to Eastern Kentucky. Like not too many people from Eastern Kentucky to make it in the NFL. Wanted an opportunity to go somewhere because Eastern Kentucky may, there's better programs, so wasn't afraid of the challenge, went to Iowa State. Very productive player. I mean, go watch him play. I mean, he went down to Senior Bowl, he had a good week, so why do we pick him? Because he's a good player, he's a great kid, he's got the right mindset. I mean, I don't know, why else would we pick the guy?
On Higgins.
What kind of goes through you guys' process to figure out who has the right mindset that would fit with being a Houston Texan?
It's a lot of work, so school, watch them practice, watch them compete at this All-Star game, meet with them at the All-Star game, talk to them at the Combine. If you bring them into the building for a 30-man visit, talk to their coaches, talk to other people that are around them. What's his pattern of behavior over time? And you're trying to create a picture of, here's what you're gonna get when you're walking the building. So goes back to the work that the scouts put in August, in September, when they're on campus, when nobody's really talking about anything, finding the right people, and then honestly, in the end, it's up to them to see it with their own eyes. Yeah, the coach says he's competitive and tough. Well, did you actually see it in practice? What are his habits to back that up? So there's a myriad of checkpoints that we go through. And I mean, Higgins, Noel, Tay, Jalen, I mean, they all passed it with flying colors, otherwise we wouldn't pick them. So, and it's very extensive. It's not one particular thing, but it's a culmination of things over time.
We know that how in the draft there are sometimes when a player maybe moves down to develop it a lot higher, and that could change the way you go about your draft board. Was no one of those guys that maybe you didn't envision to be there in the 79s, where you're looking at a different position, but seeing what his value was, you kind of pivoted towards him?
We felt that probably that was about the range where he was gonna go, and I think there was certainly interest in the player, so if we didn't pick him, somebody else probably would have, so it's the same thing. We're picking, what are our options, how do we evaluate the players? If we don't pick this player, what are we passing up? Is there a supply and demand issue? And then in the end, what's our grade? What do the coaches think? What do the scouts think? Okay, all that matches up, all right, ready, go. And that's kind of how that one probably came together.
You know how you and D'Amico approach this draft the last 2 years? How instrumental was Nick Caserio and also helping evaluating some of these wide receivers you got today?
I mean, all of our coaches are involved in the process. I mean, it's no different than last year, than the year before, and D'Amico's first year. So we give the coaches players to evaluate. Coordinators are gonna look at them on a big picture level. The position coaches are gonna study them on their level. So Coach Cayley, Coach Aplinski, Coach Laser, Coach McDaniels, they're evaluating all these players. Our scouts are evaluating them. D'Amico and I are evaluating them. Then we're taking all that information and putting it into a profile. Hey, what do we think? And that's kind of how we arrive at the endpoint. So it's not about one coach, it's not about one evaluation. We take all the information. At some point, we got to make a decision. D'Amico and I, continue to talk, and then we'll make the decision, and then ready, go, put the pick in, and on to the next one.
We'll take a few more. Do you envision Aaron out there as a tackle or somebody who plays those?
I mean, he's only played tackle, so, I mean, what can he do? Nobody thought Titus could go inside and play guard until he actually went in there and do it. So you're never going to put any limitations on what a player can or can't do. So he's a tackle until he's not. And if a player can handle more, it's all based on what they can handle. So, but Tay's got a bunch of snaps at tackle, so we feel like we got pretty good competition at tackle. We feel like we got pretty good competition inside. Like, who are the 5 best linemen to sit here today? Honestly, none of us have any idea. Like, we're gonna find out. And whoever the 5 best are, then we'll go in there. I mean, Titus has done a hell of a job, with his opportunities going from tackle to guard. So if Titus is better inside and someone else is better outside, great. If Titus is better outside, someone else is better inside, then so be it. So whoever the 5 are, like, they're gonna determine like who's actually on the field.
Last year, you kind of talked about Kalen being a multi-dimensional player at cornerback and then the rest of it at safety. Do you feel like that's kind of the same player you're going to Jalen?
Similar but different. I mean, Jalen's probably more of a corner to something else. Kalen is really a safety to probably safety. I mean, Kalen's probably more in the safety bucket, but you saw Jalen play in the perimeter formation, you saw him play inside the formation. And Frank thinks he could potentially have an opportunity in the kicking game with his speed and his toughness to maybe help us on the perimeter, whether it's on punt coverage or kickoff coverage. So I would say they're similar, but they're different. And I mean, I think Kalen was actually with Jalen tonight, so no surprise there. So birds of a feather they flock together. Birds of a feather flock together.
Close with Sergeant Aaron. Oh, you can go first, Aaron.
Nick, when you think about size, and Bill Parcells used to say this, and a lot of other football people, the size advantage, big people usually beating smaller people in football. When you look at the matchup you could have with 2 big receivers, Nico Collins and Higgins, did that come to mind that you're just going to have such an advantage? It's very hard to match up when you have 2 6'4" guys out there.
Yeah, I think sometimes size is a little bit underrated both ways. So, I mean, some of the best football players we had in New England were some of the smallest guys we had on the team. I mean, how tall was Walker? 4 foot 1.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter the size of what they do with their attributes. So whatever they can do well, I mean, hopefully they can. I mean, I think Nico is an example of a player who was big, but he didn't always play big. But I mean, now you need 20 people to tackle him. So, and that was developed over time. So I mean, size is just one element of it. It doesn't determine anything other than here's their measurables, and then what they do with those measurables, it's ultimately up to them.
Sam and then Sarge.
Nick, all of your selections today come with a lot of college playing experience, a lot of them 3-4 year starters. Was that important in kind of the evaluation process, given where you guys are as competitors in the AFC?
Yeah, playing experience matters. So the more opportunity you have to see a player do something, you maybe have a better sense of how that potentially could translate over. So I mean, all those players you alluded to, again, it's kind of emblematic of the programs that they were in as well. Even going back to Jalen Smith, Jalen wasn't very big coming out of high school, so I mean, he's not like the biggest guy, so he's kind of lean, kind of frail. So it took him a little bit of time here to kind of get to the point. He still has some room to put on some size and some strength, but the more you see somebody do something, the more opportunities they have evaluated, the better for them. But I mean, there's no substitute, and I've kind of talked about this. So you look at kind of the landscape of college football, the guys that are actually staying and playing, it might be helping them more than people think, not detracting from their overall opportunity they're going to have next year or whatever it is.
That's fine. Nick, some of the guys that was drafted tonight, like you mentioned, Higgins was a 2-star coming out of high school. Ariante dealt with some homelessness during his younger days, and then you see the emotions of Noel when you all called him and the way that he just embraced his life. What does it mean to you and D'Amico to be able to make these guys who have come through this type of adversity make their dreams come true by giving them that phone call?
Yeah, you see how much it means to them, and they've earned it through a lot of work, a lot of people around them. There's a lot of people that enable them to get to this point, and it just goes to show you, like, where you start is not necessarily an indication of where you're gonna finish. I mean, I think I read a stat about, 75-80% of the guys picked in the first round, like 5-star recruits. Like, okay, that's great. Like, there's a whole other population of players in the NFL. There's only 32 first-round picks, so there's 200 or so other players. No star, 2-star, 1-star. Like, honestly, stars don't matter. It's what you do with your opportunity, and it goes back to, like, work works. So if you want to work and you want to get better as a football player and you're willing to be coached, like, you're in the right spot. So, because that's what D'Amico believes in, that's what we both believe in. And D'Amico was that way as a player, and we're looking for a lot of those qualities. Like, we feel like that's what works in this building. If you don't have it, it's probably gonna be hard to stay in this building. But if you come in, you put your head down, you work, you just get better, take advantage of your opportunities, you're gonna have a shot to have success and do a lot of good things for the organization.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah.
Thanks.